Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be showing you my colour recipe for the World Eaters. I'll also be demonstrating to you a quick and effective way to achieve their fiery red armour. So the first thing that we need to do before we apply any paint or primers to this miniature is to start and rough up some of that armour. And we can easily achieve some texture on that armour by using our scalpel or a scalpel blade just to work our way around, or a file just to rough up some of the edges of the armour to create some small indentations and dints. Now keep in mind of the scale of this miniature, you don't want to be doing too massive ones. The trick is to get little gashes and slices here and there around the miniature, and then to create a little bit of texture you could use something like a crackle paint, but for this one I've experimented with some liquid green stuff, and I just applied this in a couple of layers on my brush here and there around the miniature where places that would naturally be more worn. So before we get into the main colour recipe and the way that I painted this armour, I want to quickly talk about the alternative, quick and easy, maybe for the gaming people out there, to achieve this red armour. So both miniatures are primed up in Colourforge's matte black, and then if you want in like the quicker version of the red armour, and then you can follow the rest tutorial, all I did then was get Colourforge's Sanguine red, or the alternative to this is just the Mephiston red spray from Citadel, and from a zenithal top-down motion from above, I just applied that from a rattle can. And because we've applied it in a zenithal top-down motion, what it'll do is just gently catch some of those edges and leave some of that black in the shadows, thus creating a very quick and effective, easy red armour. Now to talk about the main colour recipe and the method that I prefer to use, which is using a stipple and a dry brushing motion. And this way can be just as quick as, you know, when you're doing some airbrushing, but this way is going to create some amazing texture. It's going to give some mottling to the armour, and eventually as we've completed it, it's going to all tie together and add to that like battle worn and chipped look. Now all I've got here is the colours I'm using is Citadel's colours, which is Khorne red, Mephiston red, and then finally just a little bit of Evil Sun's Scarlet. Now the trick to doing this stipple method is not just to get the paint straight from the pot and slap it on. You want to start to build this up in layers as you start to move up, and the best way for this is to thin it in your colour palette and your wet palette 50-50 with water. Now when you first put it on, because it's mixed with that water, it's going to go on quite bright, but when it dries, each layer that will go up just tends to dull down a little bit, and that's the trick to this as well. So even though I've gone and started off with the Khorne red, working my way around it and just stipple in here, there and everywhere, what I'm going to do then once it's dried is give it a second coat of Khorne red and just start again to go over, and what that'll do is start to layer up and start to build those little chips and that mottling effects that we like to do. And as I start to go up the colours, so obviously the second colour is Mephiston red, we want to start to pay attention to like light volume. So you'll notice as I start to work my way around the miniature, I'm only paying special attention for like the main colours as we go up, and leaving some of that Khorne red in the shadows, and this will give us some really nice like light on the miniature, as though the armour, you know, it's like reflecting from the light and give you some like really nice light placement. And again, even though like the method that I've just taught at the beginning can look really good and you do get a bit of mottling, this in my eyes is the superior method, especially when we're painting something like, you know, the World Eaters, which are from Chaos, and their armour's naturally just going to be really horrible and grimy. And you'll see a little bit later on in the video as we get through it, because we've done that bit of pre-work with all the scratches and adding some texture to our miniature, that everything just ties together to give it this unified, like mottled and battle-worn look. And like I said, to finish it off in some really tight areas like on the knees and the shoulder pads and a little bit on the top of his chest, that was just finished off with the stipple of Evil Sun's Scarlet. So after you've completed the armour, you are naturally going to get some bits that you've like what we'd call overspray for using an airbrush, where you've like stippled onto other areas. And for this you can just go in with some black and blot out some of the like main areas that you want to go back to black. But now at this point we're just going to start to base coat out our miniature before we move into like some of the other stages. And for this, all the brown areas like his gloves and some of the bits on his axe, I've base coated these out in AK Grim Brown. It's a little bit like Rhinox hide, but it's just got like, it's not as saturated, and for me it just fits the World Eaters that little bit better. Now for all my metallic areas, these were base coated out in Iron Warriors from Citadel, and then once I'd done that I gave all the metallic areas a quick dry brush over of runfang steel. Now the reason I've done that is because the Iron Warriors is quite a dark colour, which is like a metallic colour, like a dark metallic colour, which is really going to help us like just as a base coat for our metallics. But then when we start to dry brush the runfang steel over the top, again it picks out all those areas, just fetches it up a little bit and just makes all those other areas look brighter. And because we're using that dry brushing, what that does is creates like microscopic like texture, if you want to call it that, and it just makes it look like this scratched and burnished metal that we want to achieve for the World Eaters. And whilst I got my dry brush out, all the brown areas that we've just done, like his gloves and his pistol pouch, I gave them a dry brush of Skragg Brown. Now obviously if you want to spend a bit more time on these miniatures and really make them pop, then I'd highly recommend checking out my leather tutorial here over on my channel, and a link for that will be in the description below. Next up, which is going to be like the main area of this miniature, which is probably going to take the most time base coating out, but using Runlord brass from Citadel, I've just gone round and done all the trim on its armour, and obviously like any little trinkets and things that it might have on your miniature. But just really take your time with this and make sure that you do get all those areas. I know I had to go around mine a couple of times for little areas like the spikes and stuff that I'd missed, but just get your Runlord brass and work your way around all the gold trim. And most importantly for the warriors of Khorne is the skulls, and for them they were base coated in AK Dark Brown and then just given a little bit of a dry brush over with AK Decomposed Flesh. Once all that has dried, we're going to come in with some Villainy Inks for our Unifying wash. Now I've done something a little bit different and using the Villainy Inks range like a little bit different than what we normally get taught, but for this I have got the Goons grime and I've mixed it 50-50 with the Ichor of the Damned, so it's like a really blacky brown green wash. Now you could just use Ichor of the Damned and pin wash it if you wanted to do that, if you want a bit more of a clean look. But you know, we spent all that time doing the armour and we want it all to be a little bit more grim, so for that, that's why I'm applying it through an airbrush. And there's no problem doing this via brush as well. If you've got a little palette, you can mix these in with some mineral spirits as well, and I've just got a little bit of mineral spirits in here just to thin it down a little bit, and I'm just applying it all the way around the miniature. Now the beauty of this as well, because we've thinned it, all those original little marks that we created right at the beginning, all that little bit of texture, once we start to come into our removal pass, that's going to be and stay in those little microscopic areas, which is further going to add to our battle damage. But I'm just working my way around, and again, like I always say, I pay more special attention and make it a little bit thicker and more grimy towards like the bottom of the legs or places which would naturally be accumulating dirt. Once you give that unifying wash around 15-20 minutes to dry, we're going to come in with a sponge and some mineral spirits and start to clean up with our reductive phase. And for this now, I am using sponges. I do recommend using cotton swabs, but now and again when I've coated it like this, and for like the majority of it, I've got a little bit more control with these sponges, but they can take off quite a lot, so that's why I recommend using the Q-tips first. And one end, and this applies to the Q-tips as well, one end is dipped in mineral spirits and the other end is completely dry. And what I'll do, I'll come in to reactivate that enamel first of all with the mineral spirits, and then I'll flip between like the dry and the wet side to start to buff it and burnish it. And what this will do, it'll create some nice transitions as you start to rub it into all the corners, or if you get some nice transitions. But But again, I recommend using Q-tips firstly, and you know, as you start to get a bit more control with it, that's when you can start to come in with like maybe like a sponge or like a different applicator to start to remove it. And what that'll do then is leave all that Ichor of the Damned and the Goons grime in the crevice areas, and reveal, you know, like some really nice panel lining, and add in just some nice grime and dirt. And you can use like streaking down motions as well to make it look like it's got streaks on it, but I highly recommend, you know, using this dabbing motion, and that'll help you further create some mottling. And then after that, again, give it around 15-20 minutes to dry, or you can use a blow dryer to speed up that process. Also, if you do want to learn more about the Villainy Inks and the range and the ways that they can be used, then please check out the link in the description below, which will take you to the Villainy Inks resource page. Also, I just wanted to take this moment to tell you about a couple of things, and one way that you can really help me and support this channel as a little thank you as I get something back is if you are interested in the Villainy Inks range, there is an affiliate link to Element Games below, and also one to actually the Villainy Inks website where you can grab yourself some of these Villainy Inks, and it's just a little way to say thank you back to me. It just helps me out, get a little bit of something, and obviously you get the products as well from it. Also, over on the Grimdark Compendium, you'll know that I have done a collaboration with them, so if you're really interested and want to check out my Deathwing course, then a link for that will be in the description below. Head over there now, as it is available with a couple more episodes coming in the next couple of weeks. Now back to the World Eaters, and here I'm just applying a tiny little bit more battle damage, and this I have done adding some chips just with a brush, no sponge chipping or anything, and I've not gone crazy. This is just very subtle on areas which would naturally be dinged up, and I've gone back with black for the initial chips. And now you might be asking, you know, why are you not using Rhinoxide? It doesn't tend to show up too much on like the red, the Rhinoxide, and you know, it's all about that contrast for me. So for this, that's why I've used the black to get some chips. And then inside each one, I've gone back to my Aryan Warriors, and just in each side one, I've just given it a little dab, as though, you know, like the battle damage has gone down to the bare metal. Now you will notice that some of the flesh eaters in the set also have some actual natural flesh on them, and you know, you can get like the different headed options. So if you wanted to paint some flesh, then this is the colour recipe that I use. So I give it a base coat of Citadel's Blood Reaver flesh, and then what I started to do is just add in a little bit of AK brown rose each layer that I go up until I'm finally at the brown rose. I've just started to work my way up for the highlights, picking out all the muscle areas, and this would also apply if you're painting like faces. Now if you were going to do a face, and because this arm is like in shadow, I would be tempted to maybe add a little bit of like flayed one flesh to it as a final highlight, just for that light catching it on top of the head, and it'll give it that more of a pale appearance. Now we're moving into some additional weathering, and for this we're just literally going to be using Dirty Downs products. Now if you've never used their products, they are absolutely magic in a bottle, and for this we're going to be using two, which is the Dirty Downs Rust. And firstly, I've got this, I actually put it on my wet palette and I mix it in with water, and I'm not going crazy with it, I'm just lightly applying it around like some of the metallic areas, just to give it that more like worn look, and just, you know, with this thing's aged chaos and it's just all turned into awfulness. And then for like his trim, and especially some of the high points, for the verdigris, I've literally used Dirty Downs verdigris effects. Now I have noticed with these products as well, it does knacker your brushes up a little bit, so make sure you are using an old brush, and this product can just be reactivated with water to make it lighter, or you can put more on it to make it a little bit darker. And if you've never used them, then I'd highly recommend going out and getting them. So yeah, for all the gold trim, I've just added the Dirty Downs verdigris effects. Now for his eyes, again, this is something I talk a lot about in my, like my other tutorials, and you can literally choose the colour you want. All I've done is paint the eyes white, just using any white that you want. I've just painted the eyes white, and then it's up to you what contrast paint that you want to put over the top of these, and that'll literally give you your eye colour. For me, I used Pterodon Turquoise because I wanted like a bluey green, but again, this section is entirely up to you if you want to use an orange, pink, blue or yellow. yellow. It's entirely up to you. Just go over with the contrast paint and that white will show through. One final additional little detail that I did add to the miniature, and you can go as crazy as you want with this depending on your army, and you know you can't get through a Khorne warrior without doing some blood for the blood god, and I've just applied and stippled some blood for the blood god over on his axe. But if you want to go crazy and learn some more like blood techniques, I've got plenty of videos on that where, you know, I go into where you can use like oohoo glue, yoo-hoo glue, however it's pronounced, but for this just wanted to be subtle and just put a little bit and flick some onto his axe. And one little addition that we're going to do to his guns, he's got some sort of like plasma pistol, and I'm going to teach like a really quick, easy OSL effects that you can do without using an airbrush, you know, because a lot of times, you know, OSL does look a little bit better with an airbrush. However, there are some people out there that can do it phenomenally with a dry brushing, and I wanted to give it a go, and I've never really done it before with a dry brush, but you know, it turned out alright. It's not the best, but you know, I'd highly recommend going out and search some videos on OSL. And again, the color choice is up to you. You know, if you want to use like a dark blue, work up to like a light blue and then finally add some white. But for this, I got some orange and I've just dry brushed it and like stippled it all over like the areas where I wanted it to be. Then I stepped it up to yellow and started to put some yellow in there as well. And then finally I got some really thinned down to like a wash consistency of white, and right at the bottom where the coils heat up, I've just let it run into all the crevices, and that's just a quick and easy, effective way to get some nice looking glowing OSL. To finish this miniature off, I just wanted to apply some basing, and for this I've used Kraut Crovers, a Tale of Grimdark signature series, and this is just perfect for the World Eaters because, you know, it's got them skulls in there and some bones, and it's got that nice like grimdark basing. If you don't know what Kraut covers are, I've done a video on these, so please go and check that out if you want to learn a bit more about the Kraut cover. They're just like a one dip application and they look amazing. Perfect for anybody who wants an amazing looking base or just wants some quick, effective, amazing looking army bases. And that brings us to the end of this tutorial. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've been able to take something from it and really, you know, like ways that are applying certain products, or looking at like lighting and, you know, some OSL. I've put some different stuff in this video. And again, you've got those nice two little colour recipes to choose from, whether you want to do it with an airbrush or like the rattle cans, or again, if you want to take a bit more time and do it with the stipple method. So thanks for coming along. Make sure you are checking out some of the links in the description below that I've told you about, so I really do think you'll benefit from them. But the best way you can help me and support this channel is just by simply liking this video and being a subscriber. So if you've not done that, make sure you do it already and share it on any social media that you've got. That would really help me out and get my videos out there. Again, I've got the Scaventide. I've ordered Scaventide, so for all you beautiful people that have been like, do some Age of Sigmar, do some Age of Sigmar, in the next coming few weeks, we have got some, you know, the new AOS 4 Age of Sigmar Scaventide stuff coming out. So make sure you are hitting that subscribe button so that you don't miss those videos. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video.